that's the manifold sorted. We're onto the fuel system. This is the standard fuel pump that came off the car originally, and it's obviously looking a bit battered and bruised and a bit cruddy. We're going to strip it and rebuild it. First job, obviously, take it to bits. Always a good idea to try and remember which bits come from where, because there are going to be a lot of pieces. I've got no idea what's going to come out when I take these bits off. There could be springs flying everywhere. So we'll just feed that off. OK. When you look at something like this and you've got no idea really how to put it back together again, best thing to do is a bit of cleaning. There we go, all cleaned up and painted. Looks like new. This is basically a solenoid or electromagnetic switch. The other main component of this pump is this cage here. Fuel comes in through a pipe there, through this hole, into this chamber, out through this hole, which will eventually go off towards the carburetors. Now, in each of those holes is a flap valve. One goes one way up, the other goes the other way. So then, you've got to be able to pump fuel in and out of there. To suck fuel in, you need to create a vacuum, and the vacuum's created by this diaphragm, which is attached to a shaft that goes through the centre of the solenoid. So when you want to suck fuel into that chamber, if you switch the power off, so there's no electromagnet, the spring forces the diaphragm back in the other direction, which will force fuel out of the outlet and towards the carburetors. So the solenoid is being switched on and off and on and off. And on the original pump, this one, it was done mechanically by a set of points. And then as it goes up and down, these two contacts make and break the circuit with the two contacts on the cage on this little flexible plate. So that was the original mechanical and very unreliable system, which we're going to replace with a lovely electronic system. Lovely, very upmarket. Get it as a kit, you know. So that's the flap valve housing, all done. Now I can attach that to the solenoid and make sure I put the diaphragm inside it all. That was all a bit tricky, getting those little plastic figures of 8 in. Now time to fit this little baby, and you do get lots of instructions for it. So Les and I are going to battle our way through this. We've got to cut these terminals now. Right, item 7, screw magnet carrier. I want that goes underneath. I told you that went underneath, and you said no. That's the positive. Right, we've got to the point of testing it now. So I've connected the wires up here, so the coil's all connected. And then this little thing here, called the hall shield, is what will govern the speed of the pump. As I move it in towards the rotor, the magnetic rotor in the centre, it will get faster and then slower again. And I need to get it to the position where it's running at its fastest speed and then secure it at that point. 2 minutes is the maximum it can run for. OK. Oh, hang on, we're alive. That's slower. That's stopped. There? Yep. Okay, agreed. Then, once that's done...
20 seconds.
Good. You tighten it up to fix it in place, like that. And that is job done for now. We can then sort out the cap to go on the top, put on a couple of these lovely connectors, OK, the brand new ones, and then whack it in the car. See you later. Bye. I'll tell you what, I can't get enough of the underside of this car. It's looking fantastic. I love it. Looks best so when you lie on the floor like this, you see, and you lie down and then you can go to sleep looking at it. But back to work. You can see the fuel pump is in. Big black bit at the back is the fuel tanks in as well. So the fuel system is pretty much sorted apart from the carburetors, which we're going to sort out in a second. But while we're underneath, you can also see that the exhaust is now sorted. So underneath, it's all looking very good. We've got to move on to carburetors. So, down we go. Right, bench. Carburetors, don't you just love them? We've got twin 1.5-inch SU HIF carburetors on our car, HIF standing for horizontal integral float. Basically, this is the main body of the carburetor. Everything attaches to this. Air goes in this hole, out through the butterfly, into the manifold and into the engine. The fuel's regulated by a jet and needle. It's a variable jet needle setup, which means the needle's tapered. As it moves out of the jet, you get a different amount of fuel, an increasing amount of fuel. So that's the setup of the jet and the needle. The whole assembly, needle and piston, slots into the top of the body like that, and then can move up and down. To damp it, so you don't get lots of flutter, you have a dash pot. Dash pot fits over the top with a spring between the two. This little plunger acts like a valve. As the oil passes through it, it increases the resistance of flow, and that gives you a bit more damping. So that's that setup. The HIF bit, horizontal integral float, is this bit down here. It's horizontal because it bolts horizontally onto the bottom of the body, and it's integral because it's part of the main body. The amount of fuel in that float bowl is regulated by this, which is essentially a ballcock, same thing as the cistern in your toilet. As the fuel fills up in the bowl, so that rises and eventually cuts off the fuel through this little needle valve there. So that's the basic setup of the carburettor in terms of parts. All these bits over here are the bits that connect the two carburettors together. So, bit of building. Right, next, choke mechanism. There's your before. Ta-da! There's your after. Is that gorgeous or what? Right, here we go. Hold it all together. Don't drop anything. There we go. Tighten those up. Next job I want to do is to sort out the position of the distributor drive, or dizzy drive. This is the little baby here. What this does is it's got a gear here on the bottom, which is driven by another gear on the cam.